Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines, where my guest is Andrew Murrell. He is the attorney and spokesman for the city of St. George folks. He updated us. He's telling us, one, the governor has signed a bill. There's a transition process. He also told us that the trial is set to occur in mid-January of 2022. So join us on the next Legal Lines with attorney Andrew Murrell for the city of St. George. I'm lawyer Locke Meredith. If you're battling an insurance company because of a wreck not your fault and they're not calling you back or being fair, whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555, or email Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. You have nothing to lose.
Hi, I'm Sean Fagan of Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. When insurance companies have been unfair, we've never been afraid to go to trial. Fighting hard to protect your rights, we never settle a case out of convenience. We only settle when it's right for you. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. Injuries happen when you least expect them to, making your life more complicated. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, we know this and we strive to help each of our clients during these times. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555.
I'm lawyer Collins Locke Meredith. Trust is important when hiring an injury law firm. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, thousands have trusted us and gotten the results they deserved. Visit us at LockeMeredith.com. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555.
Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm very pleased to have back on the show Andrew Murrell. He is the spokesman and honestly legal representative, it seems oftentimes, for the city of St. George movement. Pleasure to have you back, Andrew.
Hey, glad to be back. Thanks for having me again.
Kind of update us, you know. I know I've read that I've seen the governor has signed something and there's some still ongoing fights about annexations. But before we get into that, kind of quickly educate people what we're talking about and the quick history of what you went through and your group went through to where we are now.
Yeah, over a decade ago, a movement was created to create a better school district in the southeastern portion of Baton Rouge. Ultimately, their efforts fell short. They were repeatedly told during the process that if you want a school system, you need to go form a city. It was Mayor Broome in the legislature at the time who said it. And so the group began looking at the city process and ultimately decided that, you know what, we need a school district and a city to address the needs of the southeastern portion of the parish.
Well, and point out to folks why. I mean, my recall is 2/3 of the tax revenue, sales tax revenue, comes from the St. George area, but only 1/3 was returned in services and other type of amenities.
That's exactly right. And what we found out during the government process was we subsidize a lot of the parish. We don't get a return on the value of what we spend in tax dollars. And frankly, we're woefully short of what we should be getting in services provided to the southeastern portion.
And I know a lot of folks are trying to make the public schools better, but my understanding is we're still where we were, that very low performing public schools in East Baton Rouge Parish, whereas in Central and Baker and Zachary and Livingston, we've got top schools in the state.
Well, that's right. At Ascension Parish, there was a report that came out a couple of years ago that they have a $421 million annual benefit from the people moving to that parish solely for education. That's money we're missing out on. If you want to make the whole parish greater, our thought was make a better school district, and we can do that in St. George.
I mean, folks literally can drive 15 or 20 miles either north or to the east, and they got great schools.
That's right. And
so why wouldn't they?
And we're not rocket scientists. We can look over at the city of Central and see what happened when you form an independent school district, your own school district in your own city, and we see a top 5 school system every single year, and we're just wondering why not us? So the second time around, we got enough votes. We got enough signatures for the petition drive that we were put on the ballot.
Right.
October 12th, 2019, we passed 54% of the vote to incorporate the city of St. George, and the mayor promptly sued us.
Which I know was anticipated and is not a surprise. As I understand it, it's her as the mayor or in her individual capacity as a resident?
Well, it really depends on the day you ask her, because the petition kind of alludes to both. She's an individual private citizen challenging the incorporation, but she is the mayor, and that's the authority that gives her to challenge it, because she doesn't live in the southeastern portion of the parish. She doesn't live in St. George.
And so how does she have a cause or right of action? There's a federal statute that regulates this, or a state statute? What is it?
Oh, Title 33 of the revised statutes for the state is what governs and regulates incorporation efforts. And it gives some vague authority for a governing authority member to challenge an incorporation. Our argument was she wasn't a member of the governing authority as the mayor. That solely resides with the Metro Council.
Okay, and then it's my understanding that the current mayor pro tem, Mr. Cole, I think.
Yes,
he
Lamont
is
Cole.
also a party.
He was added later as a plaintiff to in theory satisfy that requirement of having a member of the
That's
governing
what made
authority.
me think of it.
Yes.
So, okay, so then, as I recall, vote passed and bill was passed in the legislature. I know Senator Dan Claytor at that time was instrumental in making that happen, along with probably Bodie White and a lot of other folks. But the governor would not pass it. He thought it was premature or sign it and
That's
authorize
right.
it.
Only in government will they tell you that planning ahead for something is premature, but that's exactly the argument that was given. So the transition district was vetoed initially. It did pass and was signed into law by the governor.
When?
I believe last year.
Okay.
So shortly after
2020.
2020, after we were satisfied in the election results.
Okay.
And so now we have a mechanism to govern St. George during the interim period while we negotiate with East Baton Rouge Parish for services, assets, liabilities. The city building process has a mechanism now with the transition district.
And so there's literally a statute that our government has passed, state government has passed then, that outlines this process of the creation of the city of St. George and a transition from a group of folks living in Southeast Baton Rouge into an incorporated city with boundaries. And also, I guess, that entity's relationship with I guess the city of Baton Rouge.
Well, in theory, the transition bill, it gives authority to the group designated, taxing authority, contracting authority, to literally begin the city process, but also, more importantly, sit down with East Baton Rouge Parish and decide, hey, this drainage ditch we're going to maintain, these roadways we're going to take care and maintain, these services we're going to do ourselves, or let's enter into cooperative endeavors for services where it makes sense. It provides a framework for that negotiation process, really.
So you initially said that it enables you to get revenues and start trying to figure out how you're going to provide services. Has that actually happened?
Well, no, East Baton Rouge Parish continues to collect our sales tax revenue that rightfully should be for the city of St. George. Allegedly.
Why would the court or the statute not mandate that it be held in an escrow account or something?
Well, at this point, in theory, it's used to provide services for the citizens of St. George. Now, where does that excess money go?
That was my next question, because if you pay 2/3 of the sales tax and only get 1/3 back, sounds like they're getting an extra third.
Seems to motivate them to drag this out as long as possible, which is exactly what's happening.
And honestly, you can't, I guess, blame them if they think they've got to have those resources. But on the other hand, that's not fair to every single person who lives in the region that will be the city of St. George, particularly those who voted for it.
Well, that's exactly been our argument all along. If you truly represent the entire parish, you need to truly represent the entire parish, not the city of Baton Rouge by itself.
Has that transfer or the reinvestment in Southeast Baton Rouge changed? Has it increased from sending back 1/3? Is it more close to 2/3, or do we have a?
No, nothing's changed. It's the same old. We're always slated for last on the project list. I hear things about them trying to skimp on things they provide to St. George. We've had the same drainage issues we've always had. We continuously complain about lack of drainage efforts, and we get lip service
Now,
and
I
rhetoric.
know that the school board was pondering and authorizing the construction of a new school in the area. Has that occurred at all?
The Jefferson Terrace project is complete and is, I think, actively a K-8 right now. So that did happen.
Okay.
So they're moving forward with that project. Originally, that was slated to be one of the last projects, and it got bumped up the list when we started the incorporation effort the second time. So
Interesting.
at least we were able to accomplish something.
So the revenues are still going to the city. The city's still basically spending them all, and you don't know where. And bottom line is, it sounds like there's not going to be any money once this is ultimately given the thumbs up for y'all to do what you need to do.
Well, we'd be able to collect revenue prospectively. So moving forward, that would revenue would be for St. George.
Yes.
But how do you recoup the previous money? I mean,
All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Andrew Murrell for the City of St. George. We'll be right back, folks.
Hi, I'm Sean Fagan of Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. Open the phone book or look online. There are plenty of lawyers to choose from. And if you ask any of them, they'll agree that the vast majority of claims settle without ever having gone to trial. And I'll tell you, any lawyer can settle a claim. It's not hard to settle a claim, but it takes hard work to get a client what he or she deserves. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, we have a proven record of working hard for our clients. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. I'm pleased to have back on the show Andrew Murrell. We're talking about the city of St. George, folks, giving you an update. Let's kind of dive back in. So I'm really thinking about this whole concept of having a law passed that enables the transition from being just a unincorporated part of the parish into a city, but setting aside or having the right to receive 2% of the sales taxes generated, but having no way to really get it because the city keeps getting those funds and spending them.
Their
so
argument
how do
is,
you remedy this?
the only solution,
I mean, you go file a lawsuit against the
file a lawsuit
city
against the
eventually?
parish and the city.
So at what date does the lawsuit say those funds were ours, you spent them, pay them back?
Well, this is the argument. The opposition argues that until we're incorporated and the judge sets the date of the incorporation, that's the date that the city begins, and then we can collect funds after that.
And your position, I presume, is different.
Well, if you look at the city of Central, their incorporation date was retroactive. In our case, no one's challenging the election, no one's challenging the vote or the voters or the results. They're challenging other ancillary issues. So if you're not challenging the election, the judgment should be retroactive to the date those election results were certified, which is November 23rd.
It's a logical argument.
Yeah, November 23rd, 2019, because the incorporation's not the issue. It's whether or not we satisfy the criteria for the incorporation.
So it would be either that date or presumably, I guess, the date that the court would rule in your favor?
In theory, the court can pick any date it wants. But if you look at the previous case, which would be the city of Central, it wound up being retroactive about 2 years.
Okay. And so the position of the city of Baton Rouge is that they have what, two main complaints or positions that render this inappropriate for the city of St. George to be created?
The two main arguments that they're presenting is that city of St. George will not have enough revenue to provide the services we claim we're going to provide.
That the city claims, city
Yes.
of St. George claims it will
Yes, the
provide?
services we're going to provide for our citizens, we don't have enough money. That's their argument.
Okay.
The other argument is that we're going to take so much money away from the city of Baton Rouge, it would be such a detriment that we should not be allowed to incorporate.
Are those legitimate arguments
No.
based on the law that is controlling all of this transition and the incorporation of a new city?
Well, not if you don't have any evidence to support it. That's the big issue. We've presented a budget. We've had it on our website for 4 years. The trial is going to bear that out. That's the burden for us to show that we can provide those services. We're going to have enough revenue. I don't think it's an incredibly high burden for us to satisfy.
Well, I have a question. You know, I presume y'all know what the 2% number is that has been collected. How does that compare with y'all's projections when this was in the public eye and being debated?
We're exactly where we said we were the entire time. We're going to run a surplus of anywhere from 10 to 20 million annually.
Every year?
Every year, given the expenses that we're currently incurring. Now, given you could add expenses if you wanted to inflate expenses, but based on what Baton Rouge has been spending in the St. George area, that's where our projected surplus is.
Okay. So their arguments are you can't provide the services for the amount of money you're going to get, and the alternative argument is you're going to destroy Baton Rouge.
That's right. We're taking all the money away from them, and they're not going to be able to do anything.
Okay. And so what is their evidence to support their first position, that there's no way you can provide those services for that amount of money?
None.
Okay.
Haven't seen it.
Okay. Of course, I guess whatever they have, they would present at the trial, but
Now, I know
there's,
if you
there's
look,
discovery and such that's allowed where parties have to exchange
Correct.
information that they plan to use at trial. So in depositions, have y'all done all that?
all of our depositions, all of our expert reports are done. As far as St. George is concerned, we could go to trial as soon as we wanted to. We could go to trial tomorrow. All the evidence is done. This is truly a trial of experts. Our economist, our accountant, their economist, their accountant, looking at budgets.
Y'all have a pretrial order and it outlines, the
Everything.
The evidence and who the witnesses are going to be.
That's correct. Just like every trial you've ever been to, the process is mapped out. There are no,
So you can legitimately sit there and say, I haven't seen any evidence based on the discovery done to date, the exchanges of documentation, and the pretrial order that the judge has ordered be completed by both parties.
I feel more confident now than I did in the beginning after seeing all the evidence.
So do we have a trial date now? The folks of the city of St. George who wanted it, at least the ones who voted, is there a trial?
The trial is set January 10th of 2022 through January 14th. So a 4-day trial is set.
So January 10th through the 14th in 2022, the year of 2022.
That's it.
Next year.
That's it.
Which is only a couple of months away.
Seems like a million miles from here, but it's really not that far.
Okay. And as far as you understand, based on the pretrial order and all discovery, 2 witnesses per side. They're going to be an economist and an accountant.
Yep, there's some other witnesses listed. I mean, Mr. Riles and Mr. Browning on our side are listed, but your principal experts, accountant and economist, it doesn't get much further than that. And reality is that's what the case is about, dollars and cents.
And so I presume their witnesses say, we're going to prove using our folks that you can't provide the services with the amount of money that you can get. And then alternatively, we can't live without having that money. It will destroy Baton Rouge.
That's it.
And your witnesses are basically saying just the opposite.
We've got plenty of money to operate our city, and we're not going to destroy Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is doing a good job at destroying itself.
Honestly, it's sad. I mean, I was born and raised and probably going to die here, and I know what Baton Rouge was like 61 years, well, maybe 62 years ago, 63. No, but anyway. And it is sad. I mean, I know crime is sky high right now. Four
years of the highest homicide rate in parish history, with the biggest government in parish history, the highest sales tax in parish history, 3rd highest sales tax in the country, all in the same parish.
And I know that law enforcement is doing everything in its power, but I mean, I've talked to all the top chiefs, and they just say there's not enough money to do what we need to do. Nope. So what I want to do on the next segment then is you kind of explain to me, assuming that the judge rules in your favor, what are the next steps that you take? Because you're going to have to apparently sue the city to try and get back the revenues, assuming he says it's retroactive to the date of the petition or the vote. And then you've got to start the process of creating a city. And so I'd like to ask those questions. First of all, what are you going to do about the money? You're just going to sue?
Unless we can negotiate in good faith, which hasn't been possible so far, I'm not sure what the alternative is.
And I'm sure you're aware the only way they can be forced to pay the monies is for the Metro Council to approve it, and doesn't seem that's likely to happen.
No, it does not.
So you're kind of going to be forced, unless somehow the court would give you some power that is in the law that I don't know of or you don't know of, you're going to have to start from ground zero to begin the process. How would that happen?
Well, with the transition district, what it does is it puts a group of designated officials in place so they can begin that process. Really, the beginning of a city isn't necessarily collecting tax revenue. It's putting a municipal code in, figuring out planning, zoning, and permitting. Start putting out bids for services that you're going to provide and cooperative endeavor agreements. A lot of those don't have, in the beginning, a necessary cash component.
All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith Legal Lines, Andrew Murrell. We're talking about the city of St. George. We'll be right back, folks.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, we know each case and client are unique, and that no 2 cases are the same. But one thing remains constant, and that is our passion to help our clients. After an accident, we know your life has changed, which is why we passionately fight to make you and your family whole. Remember, whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555. We're here to serve you.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. Andrew Murrell is my guest. We're talking about the city of St. George and where we are, folks. So let's dive back in. So got a trial date, January 10 through 14 of 2022. Got your experts, the evidence all pretty much lined out, 2 experts per side. Issue is you guys St. George can't provide the services for the money. That's the position of the city of Baton Rouge. And if you can, it's still not fair to the city of Baton Rouge because it will destroy it. Because my recall is last time, 2 years ago, we were talking, whenever, they said if city of St. George went forward, they were going to have to cut all their services by 18%.
I think they've argued as high as 20%. It's just not based in reality. It's a fictitious number with no basis whatsoever. Basically, all they're doing is guesstimating that we're 20% of the population. If we leave, then we should be taking 20% of the revenue that they need. What they never do tell you is what expenses we take with us.
Right.
Because they don't know.
Makes sense. Makes real sense. All right, so let's assume, the only time you start to collect the money from that sales tax and other fee revenue is the day that the trial court rules in your favor, and after probably 2 years of appeals to the First Circuit Court of Appeal and then likely to the Supreme Court of Louisiana. So everybody signs off on it. How do you create a city when you don't have any big revenues there to get it going?
Well, and that's what the transition district is designed to do.
So how long does that
bridge,
district entity get to exist?
The bridge can last as long as 2 years if necessary, and really it's the negotiation process with the parish. How long does it take to negotiate services, assets, liabilities, even down to property? What assets are we retaining?
And all those negotiations take place once all the courts give you the okay?
That's correct, because
assuming they do.
The parish refuses to have discussions about it otherwise. So,
okay.
Yeah, at that point we would start having those discussions, and it provides a framework and authority for the transition district to enter into those contracts with the parish or other service providers, or put out bids for services, or begin the master planning process.
So how long before you can actually do the physical things of a new city? How long do you have to wait so that you have enough money to be able to do those things that a city does?
Well, during that transition district process, that's when you have your interim mayor and city council's also been appointed, and you're setting your
by the governor, right?
That's correct, and your first election date set by the governor as well. So there's a framework for that transition district to create the beginning building blocks and steps, and then seamlessly hand that over to the first mayor and city council.
Okay.
When it's appropriate, when we have those negotiations completed.
And so the primary revenues, other than the miscellaneous fees, that will go to the city of St. George would be 2% of the sales tax?
That's correct.
Okay, and the reason that you would not get 100% of the sales tax is because of obligations owed for services provided in the past or something by the city?
A lot
or
of
ongoing services there?
Both.
Okay.
That's right. So your sales tax has a variety of different places it goes depending on where it's dedicated to, but 2% would be our portion of that.
So how was the 2% arrived at? How was that negotiated, or the courts ruled that, or
No, that is the amount that was always available to us to operate.
Okay, I see. All right. So let's talk about kind of the other things. I know that I've read about some ongoing annexations of property out of what would be the city of St. George and into Baton Rouge. Tell me about those events and kind of how you're processing that.
Well, really, they're non-events from the standpoint of, one, when we are incorporated, and that incorporation date is back to that November 23rd, 2019 certification of election results. None of those annexations followed the proper process to annex into Baton Rouge, because the proper process to de-annex out of St. George wasn't followed, because we'll have been a city since November 23rd, 2019.
Interesting.
The other part of that annexation process, a lot of it is PR. They're trying to chop up St. George, make it appear like that all this big support is for Baton Rouge and leaving St. George. The reality is you see the same actors over and over again. The same attorney who represents every annexation in the last 10 years is involved.
Interesting.
The main funding for our opposition is involved. So yes, of course they want out of St. George. They funded the opposition. The other part of it is it has no revenue effect on the city of St. George. It's property tax that's affected. It goes to Baton Rouge. It actually has a negative effect on the city of Baton Rouge, because now the Baton Rouge Police Department is already stretched thin, no secret.
Has additional territory it has to protect.
Now they've got to drive out to Women's Hospital. They got to drive out to the mall. They're in theory supposed to drive out to LaBerge. And what happens is you now have higher sales taxes because you're in Baton Rouge, higher property taxes because you're in Baton Rouge, higher crime, and less availability for your service providers. I'm not sure where the win is there.
So St. George, as I recall, was like 80 or 87 square miles initially in the initial election that didn't quite make it. And then it's been cut down to about 60.
It's roughly the
square miles?
same, equivalent to Central square mileage.
Okay, and
So
what
it's
about 80,000 residents?
80,000
contained within?
residents.
Okay, so now explain to those 80,000 residents real quick. You've done this every time, but kind of like a bullet point. How are you going to provide the services that a city provides and save, what was it, 25 million a year? Or?
We think we can operate with 10 to 20 million in surplus annually based on what Baton Rouge is currently projected to spend in the St. George area. That's how woefully underserved we've been by the parish in general.
That would represent that 2/3, only
That's right.
get 1/3, that would be the other third. Okay, so tell me about the service. So who takes care of the policing and the fire?
Well, so St. George Fire Department is going to continue to maintain the same level.
They already
one,
do and going to keep doing it.
Exactly right. Same level 1 fire protection you love by the same fire department that's done it forever.
Okay. Same for the sheriff, I
Sheriff
guess?
is going to
Sid
keep providing.
Petra?
It was some of the nasty campaign rhetoric that came out before the election that we wouldn't have police protection, to the point where the sheriff did put out a statement that said, I'm going to keep serving St. George just like I did if they win the election, just like I will if they lose the election.
What about schools? How are you going to build the schools and all that?
School systems are
That's one of those negotiated things?
Well, schools are a separate process.
Okay.
The school budget, the school system, the superintendent, the school board, that is a whole separate issue.
Okay.
We're going to get to that, and we're going to build it. We'll go through legislation. We've already got a school district in legislation.
Okay.
We'll get the taxing authority, and then we'll build a world-class school system. How do I know? I watch Central do it.
What about the basic infrastructure? Sounds like that's basically what y'all would do. My recall is you said you would privatize a lot of that stuff.
Our goal is to privatize as much city services as makes sense for the city. In situations where, same thing with contracts, where it makes sense to work with the parish, we're going to keep working with the parish. Animal control does a great job.
Right.
Why would I want to have my own animal control when I can be a part of that? And they've basically privatized animal control already.
And you're going to pay, that's a non-issue then. It will stay the way it is.
Yeah, so places where it makes sense to stay, we stay. And places where it makes sense to move on, we do. In places where it makes sense to partner with your neighbors, we will.
And my understanding is this whole process is being replicated right now in the Atlanta, Georgia area in a place called Buckhead or something, where they're trying to kind of do the same thing. It seems like this is occurring all over the place.
Well, and yeah, anywhere where a group feels like they're being underserved and they're over providing on their end. Buckhead, my understanding, is the size of San Francisco.
Okay. It's been wonderful. Andrew, to see you again.
Good to see you.
Good luck with all this. This is Locke Meredith with Andrew Murrell talking about the city of St. George, giving us an update. Thank you for being with us, folks.